All right, I'm Craig. This is Jonathan. We're the co-founders of the music and effects brand Lens Distortions. And today we're talking about our latest album, Modern Explorers 4. And today we're going to listen to an overture, which is the first track on the album, and it's about 10 minutes long, and it combines elements from each track on the album. So it kind of gives us a nice sample. So John, if you go ahead and click play and take us in.
Let's go. So yeah, this overture is basically all 16 tracks of the album combined into a single listening experience. So we're going to listen to some parts. We'll discuss some parts here and there. I guess we'll see what happens.
I'm kind of anticipating. I can see the waveform when it's going to get big, and might interrupt us. So we'll just kind of let the music be a character, I guess, in the conversation. There's definitely a certain grandness to it, grandiosity, right? Even just the album art you can see here, I think pairs with this track that we're listening to right now of kind of these sweeping views of breathtaking nature and super cinematic shots of interesting places on Earth, right? So that kind of dovetails with what's the big idea of the Modern Explorers series as a whole? What would you say that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Modern Explorers as a 4-album universe so far is really about not just documentaries, but about the documentary filmmakers who go on a mission to do things. And of course, they travel to really cool places around the world to do that mission, and they bring cool brands and products along for the journey. It's a satisfying little bit right there.
Yeah, so this is another album that is kind of autobiographical for our customers, almost, where there's a certain satisfaction to almost reading themselves into the story or using it to soundtrack maybe their own adventures or just really relating to the music because of that narrative arc that's inspired by sort of the act of documenting the world and going out and doing these ambitious projects, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's like big inspiring themes. There are like roll up your sleeves and pack your camera gear and jump in the Land Rover like tracks. Mm-hmm. There are tracks that are really reflective and introspective and kind of deeply consider the lessons learned along the way. Mm-hmm. There's some that have gravitas, like this one playing right now called Not Alone.
It's cool how they all just kind of transition into the next one. Like like all of our albums, but this really shows it off. There's a, cohesiveness and compatibility across the tracks. And you could really pull from the whole album to kind of soundtrack a project if you needed. These are just kind of one track flowing into another here, which is interesting. So what's the, each installment in the series kind of takes on a little bit of its own flavor. How would you describe the particular tone and texture and concept of Modern Explorers 4 in particular?
So this one, we really wanted to lean into the adventures that go into the Northlands, whether that be Iceland or the Arctic Circle or summiting Mount Everest. So we kind of cover a lot of the stories that are just around that type of environment.
And how would that compare to maybe some of the previous installments?
So Modern Explorers 3 was really about like deserts and dunes, and it's a really fun one. Modern Explorers 2, we really centered around like the mountains of Hawaii. And then the very first Modern Explorers was kind of just it's the smallest one, but it was our intro to kind of just setting up the idea. And that one's about kind of visiting the sea and the ocean. So pack your bags, let's go.
This is like hanging off the side of the Land Rover because you almost missed it as it was pulling away, you know?
Exactly. Or jumping out of that plane.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite tracks. The melody on this track always gets stuck in my head.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, and obviously in this overture, it's combining some of the most interesting and visceral parts of any given track. But as with all of our albums, we have alt mixes and stems for every single one of these tracks.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
there are certain layers, instruments, kind of tones and textures that stand out. You really have a wide palette to draw from here.
Absolutely. I mean,
not just the dramatic kind of forefront instruments that you hear.
Yep. Even for the overture, we offer stems. So I actually loaded up all these stems in here so you could see the stems that come with just this one track. So you could turn off the percussion or the piano or the Icelandic gritty, cello, dark cellos. You get a lot of customization ability.
I didn't even know that you had loaded that up on the timeline. And just looking at that, I mean, you've got stems for this one track. The track spans 10 or 12 minutes. I mean, you could score a whole film with just this overture and the stems to this overture.
Yep. Not only that, I mean, this album has over 40 minutes worth of music, which you could easily extend. So you could score an entire documentary, no problem.
That's interesting.
But
what else?
You could also do an epic 15-second piece of content as well with all the music. We really make it easy to edit. The track structures are really intentional. So,
were there any particular tracks that came together in an interesting way or had an interesting backstory to them, particularly fun to try to create a sound for?
This one was for sure. This is literally a scene where they're loading up their bags and jumping on a plane.
Mm. And when we say, this is what they were doing in this scene, there's not actually them or a movie, but that's an essential part of how we build these albums and create this deep sense of story in every track and in every album, is that we are basically storyboarding an entire film. And obviously a lot of what we do is useful for commercials as well. And so a scene in that film, if you will, could be the idea of a certain car commercial or a certain adventure brand commercial or something. But our composers are composing to these specific and vivid story-driven prompts to create that sense of story and to create that sense of here's a character in motion doing something.
Exactly.
I think that comes through in the music.
Yep. The more we put into the original idea before we start writing the music, the more color we get and character we get. So that's a lot of fun.
Well, and this is a fun one because certainly Modern Explorers 4 fourth installment. This is the furthest we've ever taken an existing concept. So there's a bit of familiarity of, we kind of know the world of modern explorers, but to explore a different, aspect of that world. It's interesting. It's kind of meta because we're talking about the literal world is the concept here. But yeah, to say the Northlands or the mountains of Hawaii or visiting the sea or the deserts. So there's a familiarity, but then there's a different kind of motivation. And of course, what I'm always provoked by is that these things are the inspiration, but you can close your eyes and just listen to the music. And of course, a lot of this music ends up in completely different contexts. You could use these tracks somewhere other than a wintry, adventure scene, of course, but
Absolutely.
You really need that level of prescriptive, vivid motivation for the emotion in it to get the type of music that feels the way this feels. And then from there, you can take a step back and make it more universal and more available to people to use in whatever story context they have.
Absolutely. I mean, when humans are the centerpiece of the story, that is extremely versatile. And then, of course, when you're drawing inspiration from nature and earth, that it doesn't get any more timeless than that.
Well, we're coming in on a close of the overture here. Is there anything else that you think people should know about this particular project?
I think if you are a documentary filmmaker, if you are a filmmaker working for luxury brands or iconic brands that go on cool missions or journeys, if you're telling deeply human stories, if you're an endurance athlete who's pushing yourself to the limits, I think that this album has something for everyone, whether it's big, inspiring themes or understated and quiet, reflective moments.
That's great. Yeah, I can't stress that the last part enough too, because I think people know us for the kind of epic bangers for some dream projects, but there's just a gold mine of really helpful layers and stems and underscores hidden within every album and hidden across the platform. So to check all of that out, this album and more, of course, as always, you can go to lensdistortions.com and listen for yourself. Thanks, John.
All right. See you later.